The night was eerily still, the kind of silence that seemed to weigh heavily on everything around it. Ezra Grant, a weathered rancher in his mid-40s, had grown accustomed to the isolation of his sprawling land. But tonight something felt different. The sky above seemed unusually bright, with the stars flickering as if they were alive, pulsing with an energy he couldn't explain. He shrugged it off, attributing it to exhaustion after a long day of tending to the cattle and the crops. As he walked back toward his modest cabin, something unusual caught his eye, a faint glow near the far end of his fields. It was a strange, shimmering light, unlike anything he had ever seen before. Curious, he grabbed a flashlight and moved toward the source, his heart beginning to quicken with every step. The closer he got, the more his pulse quickened. The glow was soft, silvery, like liquid moonlight shifting and dancing in the air. When he reached the edge of the field, he froze. There, in a shallow depression in the ground, were two figures. At first, he thought they might be injured animals, but as he moved closer, he realized they were not creatures he had ever seen before. Their skin was a pale, almost ghostly shade of blue, translucent in places, and their large, oval eyes glowed faintly. They were fragile-looking, their bodies thin and shivering, dressed in torn, shimmering garments. Ezra's mind raced. Could they be from another world? He had heard the stories, of course, of UFO sightings, government cover-ups, but he'd never believed them. Yet here they were, in front of him. One of the figures looked up, her eyes locking with his. She made a soft, musical sound, almost like a plea. "Help us," she whispered, her voice trembling but unmistakably clear. Ezra's shock gave way to instinct. Despite the surreal situation, he couldn't just leave them. He knelt down beside them, feeling the unnatural cold that clung to their bodies. "It's all right," he said softly, though he wasn't sure they could understand. "I'll help you." He carefully scooped up the smaller of the two, her body surprisingly light, almost weightless. The other figure managed to rise to her feet, leaning against him for support. He guided them to his cabin, where he set them down on the couch, draping blankets over them. They were emaciated, their bones visible beneath their skin. Rushing to the kitchen, Ezra grabbed whatever food he had, bread, some fruit, and a pot of stew. He set the food before them, unsure if they could eat anything from Earth. The two figures hesitated at first, then began eating with an unexpected grace. Their movements slow but deliberate. It was as if they were savoring each bite. As they ate, a hint of color began to return to their pale skin. "Thank you," the tall one said, her voice stronger now. "We are grateful." Ezra nodded, still trying to make sense of it all. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" The two exchanged a glance, and the smaller one spoke. "We are Lyra and Nira. Our vessel crashed. We are stranded here. Our kind cannot survive without the proper energy." Ezra frowned. "Energy? You mean food?" Nira shook her head gently. "Not just food. We require a specific form of energy to survive. The food you provided helps, but it will not last long." Ezra leaned back, rubbing his forehead. "What kind of energy do you need? Maybe I can help." Lyra's eyes softened, and she reached out, placing a hand on Ezra's arm. A strange warmth spread through him, followed by a tingling sensation that left him breathless. For a brief moment, he felt as if he could almost understand her thoughts. "Your kindness is rare," she said quietly, "but what we need is not simple." Before Ezra could respond, a sudden noise from outside made him jump. He rushed to the window, his heart hammering in his chest. In the distance, he saw a brilliant light descending from the sky. Another ship. It was sleek, metallic, hovering silently. A door slid open, and several figures stepped out, their silhouettes sharp against the glow. "They found us," Nero whispered, her voice laced with fear. Ezra turned to the two. "Who are they?" "They are our pursuers," Lyra answered. "If they capture us, they will destroy us." Ezra's mind raced. He couldn't let that happen. "Stay here," he told them firmly. "I'll take care of it." He grabbed his rifle and stepped outside, heart pounding. The figures were moving swiftly, their movements unnaturally smooth. As they drew nearer, Ezra could make out their features, angular faces, eyes glowing red. exuding an aura of menace. "Leave this place." Ezra shouted, aiming his rifle. "You're not welcome here." The lead figure tilted its head slightly, as if amused. "You interfere with matters beyond your comprehension. Human, step aside." Ezra's grip tightened on his weapon. "Not happening." The figure raised a hand, and a burst of energy shot toward him. He dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the blast. It struck the ground, creating a smoldering crater where he had been standing. Ezra fired his rifle, but the shots seemed to have no effect. The figures kept advancing, their red eyes fixed on him. Just when he thought it was over, a brilliant light exploded from his cabin. Ezra turned just in time to see Lyra and Nira standing in the doorway, their bodies glow in otherworldly energy. They raised their hands, and a powerful wave of light surged forward, engulfing the attackers. The figures screamed as their forms disintegrated into ash. Ezra stood in awe, watching as the light faded and the sisters collapsed, exhausted. He rushed to their side, catching them before they hit the ground. What was that?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Our true power," Lyra whispered weakly. "But it takes a toll. We cannot stay here any longer. We must return to our ship." Ezra nodded, helping them to their feet. "I'll take you there." Together, they walked back to the spot where Ezra had first found them. The wreckage of their ship was partially buried in the earth, but it still hummed with a faint energy. Lyra and Nira approached it, their hands glowing as they activated a hidden panel. The ship began to rise, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. "Thank you, Ezra," Nira said, her eyes full of gratitude. "You saved us. We will never forget your kindness." Ezra smiled, though his heart was heavy. "Take care of yourselves, and maybe visit sometime." Lyra nodded. "We will return. Until then, protect this world. It is more important than you know." With that, the sisters stepped into the ship, which ascended into the sky with a soft hum. Ezra watched until it disappeared into the stars, feeling an odd mixture of sadness and hope. As he made his way back to his cabin, he realized that his life had changed forever. He had helped two alien beings, and in return, they had shown him a glimpse of a vast and mysterious universe. He may not have understood everything, but one thing was certain: he was no longer alone. As Ezra stood there, staring at the empty expanse of sky where Lyra and Nira's ship had vanished, a sense of wonder settled in his chest, mingled with an undeniable ache. He had always believed that the vast, unyielding silence of the night was a reminder of his isolation. The stars above had once felt like distant lights, irrelevant to the small, quiet life he had cultivated in the wilderness. But now, after what had happened, those same stars felt like windows into a universe he had never imagined. A universe filled with life, mystery, and stories far beyond his own. His hand rested on the weathered railing of his porch, his gaze lost in the starlit sky. The silence of the night seemed different now, less oppressive, more alive. He wasn't just a lone rancher anymore. He had been a part of something extraordinary, something that had irrevocably changed the trajectory of his existence. It wasn't just the aliens themselves that had altered his reality. It was the realization that there was so much more out there than he had ever known. His world, for all its beauty, was a small piece of an infinite, bustling cosmos. Ezra had always been a man of simple means and modest desires, but his encounter with Lyra and Nira had cracked open his view of the universe. They had shown him the fragility of life beyond Earth, and the complexity of survival, of energy, of what it truly meant to coexist. Their desperation for energy, the raw vulnerability of their bodies, and the power they revealed in their final moments, it all left an imprint on him. He understood now that life was not just about living day to day, about farming, surviving, and making do. It was about connection, compassion, and recognizing the importance of every creature, no matter how far from Earth they might hail. As he walked back inside his cabin, the sound of his boots echoing through the empty halls, he could feel the weight of responsibility settle over him. Lyra's words resonated in his mind. Protect this world. It is more important than you know. What had they meant by that? Were they warning him of something else? Something bigger? He couldn't shake the feeling that his encounter with them was just the beginning. There was more to this mystery, more to the universe that was waiting for him to discover. It was as if his own life had been a prelude to something much larger, something that would shape the course of human history. Sitting down at his kitchen table, Ezra's thoughts swirled. He had never thought of himself as someone destined for anything grand. He was just a rancher, a caretaker of land, a solitary man who preferred the quiet of the fields to the bustle of the world. But now, he wondered if his place in the universe was bigger than he had ever imagined. Maybe the world he thought he knew was just a single thread in a much larger tapestry, a part of a story that had been unfolding for eons. He smiled faintly to himself, the corners of his lips curling up in a rare expression of hope. Whatever was coming next, whatever the strained connection with Lyra and Nira had set in motion, he was ready. He had been chosen to witness something profound, and perhaps someday he would be called upon to play a part in something far greater than his wildest dreams. The universe, it seemed, had far more in store for him than he could have ever anticipated. With that thought, Ezra turned off the lights and walked outside one last time, the stars above him now feeling like old friends, quietly watching over him as he stood on the precipice of a new and boundless adventure.